Okay, Mike Masato, CEO of Staff Driven Dental and the Dental Road Warrior, returning for episode 69 in the series, long overdue. Sorry for the little hiatus, but once in a while, the Dental Road Warrior needs to recharge his batteries and come up with new material as he reflects back on all the different topics he's talked about, meaning myself, over the last almost 2 years now. So I've been doing this about 2 years now. And I can think of one common thing, one common thread that goes throughout all these episodes as I'm looking back on past episodes, and it's communication. And this has come up time and time again and been referenced to in several episodes. One of the episodes I talked about the two basic problems you can have in practice, and one of them being communication. And I touched on it a little bit, but it bears me speaking about communication again, because every day of my practice consulting life and my coach's practice consulting life, we run into issues and breakdowns and problems in practice because of bad or no communication. I mean, all practice problems boil down to this: bad or no communication in practice. And I don't know why there's a resistance sometimes to want to resolve this core source point issue, because resolving the communication issues you have in practice will make life that much more stress-free for you in practice, that much more productive for you in practice, more profitable. You'll have less upset in practice. You'll have your expectations met, goals achieved. Again, all of this starts and ends with communication. All right, but you have to have, first of all, I call them structures for communication in place. So when you have the ability to have forums for communication that happen, and those are things like the morning huddle. Those are things like staff meetings. These are things like employee reviews, when you sit down with your employees and speak to your team members and talk to them. Having administrative time, talk to your administrative team, your executive time with your executive leaders like your manager or your department heads for hygiene and assisting in practice. There are various times you can build into your practice to make sure that communication happens, because it doesn't always happen by accident. All right, not everybody that's listening to this video is a master communicator, but I can tell you, if it's one skill you need to develop and get better at, all right, is communication. And believe me, I've had doctors tell me point blank, I don't like talking to people. And again, you are unfortunately in a communication game and in the communication field. And I know that's probably why sedation dentistry was invented, so dentists didn't have to talk to patients. It wasn't because they were high fear or you needed to do certain work that required them to be sedated. I think many dentists are happy about sedation dentistry because they can walk in and not have to talk to a patient. But I can tell you, your ability to communicate with your patients effectively and your team is critical to your success, right? And then that's why we have to get better at this. And a lot of what I talk about and train about with my coaches is having better communication in your practice. And there's many forms of communication that go on in practice. There's written communication, there's verbal communication. We have communication now through social media. There's so many things going on with communication. Right? So really, we should put attention on communication a lot. Handoffs in a practice, communication from front of the office and back of the office. A lot of times there's upsets in the practice because we don't communicate well front to back. Right? Or we don't communicate well with our patients. Our patients don't communicate well with us, or staff doesn't communicate well with the patients, or my staff doesn't communicate well with me, right? Well, guess what? You need to put attention on, creating an environment, a communication environment where communication flows free and easy. Creating a safe space in your practice of communication can happen. So people are encouraged to speak, right? And then they have all, and I just met with a doctor about this an hour ago, about the frustrations he's having in practice, really having his expectations and goals met in practice, and people really supporting him in practice the way he wants to. And guess what? The source of this matter is him as a leader in practice not communicating effectively with them, not setting expectations. How are they supposed to know all this without you communicating them? And spending time doing this, not just one time. Well, I told them one time. One time's not enough. I mean, communication has to happen constantly, all the time in practice. And it's very easy to get just absorbed with the day-to-day and forget that the glue that holds it all together, the universal thing that puts it all together, is communication in practice. All right. So again, creating an environment where, again, communication is crucial and critical and encouraged and happens, right? And again, it takes many forms throughout the course of our day. Right, but again, all problems, if you have a problem going on, you can trace it back right now in practice to bad or no communication. I mean, it's like, how many times just case presentation? Patient comes in for work they supposedly agreed to. Well, I didn't agree to that. I don't understand. Why am I getting this done? Why am I here? I was told something else. Communication breakdown. Maybe they didn't have a signed treatment plan. It wasn't put in black and white, so they can't argue with it since it's in writing. Right there. Upsets with patients over policies. If they're late, they cancel. They don't show up. All right. Whatever. There's so many different things that go break down with patients. This is all can be solved with communication on patient policies, right? Issues with staff not doing things the way you want them done in practice. Well, how is this being communicated? Teaching them how you want the practice run, and again effectively communicating this to them and having them in turn communicating it to the patients of how things have to go down during the course of a day. So those are your operational policies I've talked about many times, and those are forms of communication. Right? Staff policies, having staff policies in place, again, which I've talked about many times over the course of this video series. And having staff policies important, because again, a lot of upsets happen because people don't know. There's a vacuum of communication when it comes to things like what about time off and sick time and vacation, all those kind of things like that are covered in employee handbooks, things like that, and having strong staff policy again and communicating this, right? And that's why it's always good when you have staff meetings. What you should do, you should always review policy in staff meeting. Right, which keeps communication going and dialogue happening about what's going on in the practice. Encouraging new ideas. That's the forum for do that. Resolving upsets in the practice and issues that came down. That's what the morning huddles do. So we're all on the same page to start the day. We have a plan going in. So communication flows nice and easy throughout the course of a day. How things are going to be discussed with patients. How many opportunities. When I talk about opportunities, I'm giving a summary of all my past Dental Word Warrior episodes. When you have a morning huddle, I talk about having an opportunities checklist to go through all the conversations, all right? And every opportunity is really a communication that we're going to have with a particular patient throughout the course of the day. You see, so all of this builds up and piles up, and because we don't make communication the be all end all of everything in practice, And again, this is the big thing about in coaching. If you don't have coaches that are effective communicators, and many of you may have tried practice management before and have done practice management with other companies, and what's the breakdown? Well, we don't communicate. We hardly ever hear from this company anymore. We don't talk to them enough. There's not enough interaction. They're not here on site enough with us in our practice. So that's what you're saying is there. Well, I paid for this information, which is there's lots of great information, but it's really the communication of that information, the what to say and how to say it. Right, that's part of everything I teach. Half of what I teach is what to say and how to say, and the other part is what to do and how to do it. Right? But and again, starts and ends with communication. So if you are working with somebody out there who's not me, all right, you should be insisting on better and more frequent communication, because again, all your upsets and breakdowns and dissatisfaction may be coming from the fact that you don't have enough communication and good communication. And there's good and bad communication. You want good communication. Communication can take many forms, but as long as it's good communication, there's bad communication too. And I won't get into all the different factors of what bad communication is today. But I can tell you, if you're having problems and upsets and you're dissatisfied, things aren't going the way you want them to go, and your goals aren't being made, and you're having issues with yourself, that's your bad communication, right? So again, you need to insist upon this, and this needs to be the core focus of how you run your practice and do things in your practice every day to be more successful. Right? And again, having a relationship with somebody in your life, whether it's your office manager, that's another big breakdown. Your office manager is your main communicator. All right? They should have the title of communicator. They're your communications chief or communications officer in the practice. That's how important they are. It's not enough that they just great at closing cases and filling a schedule and whatever. They need to keep you in the loop of what's going on and back and forth, and share ideas and challenge you, and you challenge each other. But having that office manager, she is your main communicator. And so you better put someone in that position who's a phenomenal communicator. Just like your front desk, nerve center of the practice. You should have some of your best communicators at the front desk every day, effectively handling everything that goes on with great communication. All right. So again, little on communication, but usually important topic, and it's a summary kind of a theme that I've discussed many times throughout the years on this series. Hope this was helpful to you. Hope you enjoyed it. Share this with your team. Implement. This video series is not just meant to make you think; it's make you to go out there and really change things and implement. All right, so hope you enjoyed watching. Be back with episode 70 before you know it. And again, appreciate you sharing this, and always appreciate your new ideas being sent in. Thanks.